Yeah, welcome everybody. This is our first online event of the year. I think the last event we did was, I want to say October, November. So for those who are new, byProduct is a community of product-minded people where we can come together and share ideas, ask for advice, look at news, and it's a place where people in the community come together and share their knowledge, and that's where the presentations and the events come from. And without people in the community, we can't do this. And the format that we have adopted over the last couple of years is what you're about to see, which is a very conversational style of presentation. So we've got the panelists, we've got the prompts on the screen. Any questions pressing during the conversation, just put it into chat. And at the end, the reason why we use this version of Zoom is so you can get involved in the conversation and come off mute. Yeah, so what's new? So this year, so we're 2 years old and we've got 200 people in our Slack channel. This year, we are looking at growing. Most of the people to date have been in Berlin, and we've done a number of offline meetups. And when we say meetups, it's really been networking. So it's very informal, meet for drinks, put some faces to names. And we really want to expand on this. So areas that we're looking at growing community is Leeds. That's the city that guys from byProduct are based over in the UK. Barcelona seems to be a pretty cool tech hub down there with some interesting product people, and also looking at going further afield and looking at East Coast of America, in particular Miami. Something that we do want to highlight, whilst we have been a Slack channel since our inception 2 years ago, Slack is really hindering what we can and can't say, and it's very, very expensive, to be quite honest. You pay per user, and $8 times 200 per month for a community that's free. It's kind of putting the barriers up. So we're just in the process of looking at a migration to a new platform. Charlie has kindly put together a quick poll. So really keen.
It's giving me an error message saying I've logged in from another device. Which I don't know why that's happened.
I can see it. So if you can see it, by all means, choose. If not, it's one of those technical things, and we'll blame the tools, not the person.
Please don't blame me. I'll cry.
Oh, can we go to the next slide?
Yep.
So just really quickly, my name is Mike. I'm one of the co-founders of byProduct. I'm head of growth at AmSource for a talent solutions business. And my day job is working with startups, working with product people, connecting the right people to the right companies. Product, something that I'm really passionate about, and just felt we needed to do something to kind of bring the audience together and share ideas, because it's a little bit lacking really compared to what the technical people have. Nikhil, do you want to say hello?
Yes, I do. Sorry. So I'm one of the other co-founders of byProduct. As Mike said earlier, right? Our goal for this community is to foster conversation about product, and really a safe space where we're talking about not only the wins, but also some challenges and some failures at times, and really promote a healthy conversation where we can learn from each other and have a little bit of fun. I'm currently working as a product lead at Penta/Conto. Now they're the same. And yeah, I'm really excited to now talk about, new trends in product in 2023. Happy to have a conversation.
Good stuff. Dave's one of the directors at AmSource. He is helping with the growth particularly at Leeds and Miami. So you'll be seeing more from Dave. And Charlie is the guy that makes this all tick. So that's about as nice a thing that I'm probably going to say in public about him. But yeah, without Charlie, then all this falls apart, basically. So next slide, please, Charles.
Cool.
Oh, I've just skipped forward one. Is that?
Yeah, that's just introducing Roman. Roman, do you want to
Yeah,
give?
I thought you skipped ahead of the slide, but yeah, Roman, over to you. One of our speakers today.
Yes. Hello, Roman Smigel. I've been doing product-related work for the last, I would say, 20 plus years. I recently joined in October at 60 Beans, so we're focusing on specialty coffee. And I own engineering, tech, engineering, product, and design together. And yeah, doing some cool stuff with specialty coffee. And at the tail end, we have a special gift or prize or thing to kind of take advantage for the whole community.
Good stuff.
Hello. Hi, I'm Alex, and yeah, I'm a product leader, and basically I'm helping companies to make successful products or make their products successful, right? And build the competent product teams, basically. My latest role was at UXChem as a director of product, where we are trying to build a comprehensive, I would call it full stack product analytics for mobile product managers and product teams. And yeah, right now I'm in between, waiting for my new journey to start. Happy to be here.
And also one of our NX Lab advisors, Alex, and you've done some pretty cool stuff for a couple of people for us so far. So thanks for
that. Nicola, you've pretty much already been through what you do.
Right. That's a very old picture of me. I need to change that. But yes,
that picture's pre-COVID, that one.
Pre-COVID, pre all the food that I've had now in India. But yes, I mean, I've been in product for a very long time as well, practically a dinosaur now. And I've worked for a number of larger companies back in the States and started my career here in Berlin 3 years ago. And I've had a chance to lead a product for a number of organizations. Very recently, I've been working with Penta, and now it's Quanto because we are acquired 3 months ago. But yeah, really happy to be here as well and have a conversation with the legends as they sit here today.
Cool. Let's get started.
Factory will get you everywhere.
Cool. Who wants to take this one off them? I know you wanted to say something about funding in 2023 for product, Alex.
Yes, indeed. So I'm just gonna kick it off, right, and see where you want to add. And like obviously 2023 predicts to be of no consolation, let's say, to growth stage startups, right? Especially the, I don't know, BCD funding rounds, like no hyper funding, no free money, right? And but generally this reduced funding opportunities, I think that they open up some other opportunities as well, or at least I tend to be optimistic about everything. And I think that this tough conditions can help actually innovate, right? So one thing I've been thinking is that it opens up the possibilities for more diverse financing opportunities, right? I think that crowdfunding will be taken off, maybe some other models like future revenue-based or loans or something like this, and that it possibly will allow more or actually less or smaller investors, right, to step in. And I think, or I hope that this in turn would lead to more experimentation, innovation, creativity, something that maybe was not always possible with the more traditional forms of financing, right? And the investment process will change probably, and I'm not talking only about due diligence here, but also where the investors would be looking. And I hope that more of them will shift their focus towards the actual customer value, right? Business sustainability, work efficiency versus this growth at all cost type of scenario we've been observing in the past couple of years, which put the immense pressure to grow, yeah, that often resulted in the BS, obviously speaking, openly speaking. And yeah, I think that another thing is, or trend, that the companies will try to really secure and extend their runway, right? So they have to be like more thoughtful about picking their battles, about optimizing the efficiency of their teams, be effective in their product choices, etc. Yeah, as for industry, I think that it's more or less obvious that AI will be picking up like crazy, right? But also some of the existing industries such as security, IoT, biotech, and I think that with the consumers growing more conscious about environment, right, and about sustainability, so more investments will be in the how's it called, climate tech, right, or sustainable
I think green tech.
agriculture. Yeah, and hopefully also this new investment opportunities will also open up the possibilities for entrepreneurs to come up with some more innovative ideas in the legacy industries, right? So like healthcare, I don't know, logistics, manufacturing, because basically this is the source of innovation. It doesn't come usually from corporate sector. That's my thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Do you think with the funding landscape changing, the demands from product will change, and hopefully for the better? Because I think as we've seen this chasing of 10x, for example, that's the thing. We want a 10x, we want a 10x. It's product really has been a victim of that, in that you have been seen as a delivery function and not really letting product do what product is there to do. So do you think with this more mindful investment, making do with less, or make do with what you've got for longer, do you think product will be allowed to shine?
I want to answer definitely, but I really hope, right? And I think that the leaders and founders will have to. They will have to find like more effective solutions, right? That for product managers, that would mean that a lot of them will have to
it's the byproduct.
shift to profitability, right? And they will have to embrace much more of this business outcome ownership, maturity, I would say, not just like, I know there are a lot of feature factors. There are some really great companies, but still a lot of feature factors. But I think that PMs will have to tap in much more into previously maybe inaccessible areas for them, right? Such as revenue, such as marketing, etc.
Yeah. What do you think, Roman? Because you're not just CTO, you're actually managing director as well, aren't you? So you kind of got two hats and visibility of both sides of this.
Yeah, I think this is like a really fascinating topic. I kind of see the blending of what is really product. We have product management, product ownership, who is what, and also the merging of what you see some of like this product marketing managers to what product does, and seeing more and more kind of like metrics and KPIs being blended in to kind of help drive, are we really hitting the targets and aligning people up? And I think you'll start to see the role of product being kind of a shared thing. Like, I'm a big believer that product building software is a communal thing. It takes everyone from the organization to really be organized and put on their product hat and contribute to something, or else it's just one person who's bound for failure because everything is on their shoulders to make it perfect. And as you know, like when we talk about agility, it's not just about one person, it's about the organization. And I think you start to see this, and as we start to go into blending AI with green tech and coming up with like hybrid solutions to things and making things move faster. Like, I think the next topic is like AI and machine learning. How can we utilize these things to maybe do user research in a faster way or a more efficient way, and automating some of the mundane tasks and things that we do to do more of the creative things. And I think this will impact funding from a different perspective of, like revenue based. I'm seeing more people from the US investing in European startups as seed and angel, and then also into Series A, which is really, really nice. So I think this will probably open up kind of the ideas that are growing in Europe versus being a copycat, maybe a little more innovation than what we've seen in the past. And I really, really hope, and I've been hoping for this for like 10 or 15 years, is crowdfunding becoming a bigger thing, because I think there's so many people who would love to invest, but they don't have thousands of euros, but maybe at an aggregate together as a movement to really do stuff, you know? Like you see GoFundMe and maybe that merging into some investment vehicle. But I think there's lots of laws that we have to take into account still.
Yeah, I think it'll be nice to see that in the mainstream, because if you look at, for example, Web3 blockchain, they were really good at token, the ICOs and things of raising capital early on and giving people a slice of pie. But maybe we'll see a bit more of that in the mainstream.
Yeah, and I think the talk of like from Web3 to Web4 and what does this really mean, and going away from these 3s and 4s to really having something that is easy to understand and can blend everyone in together.
Sure. Nikhil, anything to add?
No, I would say I agree with most of the things, that now the landscape is going to move more towards sustainable businesses rather than just growth. Because growth at all costs not only cannibalizes the product, but also the teams, right? And they're one of the biggest drivers of our product. So you can see that the culture in an organization also suffers greatly when you have what you say product led, but growth at all costs kind of thing. Now, in terms of investment opportunities as well, I think, and how startups are funded, absolutely true, right? Crowdfunding is definitely very mainstream, but even in India right now, I can see like I was just watching TV and there's an ad for an app where you can now invest in smart startups from your phone, just sitting there, and you can just invest money in them. And it's becoming very mainstream everywhere, that now you should be able to invest and hold equity in certain financial instruments that are not very traditional. And more people, as they see that this, they're building sustainable businesses, startups can be sustainable, because this is what the era is going to yield, right? Smaller players are going to either die or get acquired or have a merger of some sort to yield stronger players in the market, which now people can invest in. So it's going to be really, really great for funding as well. And in terms of trends, yes, AI is the big one. AI and machine learning, specifically just data, right? Using data to more wisely, maybe to just draw proper insights from like certain data warehouses, or how you structure the data, or maybe building models to train AI to do some automations for workflows that you might do manually earlier. Yeah. But yes, everyone asks about, everyone says that, is AI going to take my job? But it's going to be more like a person who's using AI might,
Yeah, and we've mentioned just now around AI being able to automate more mundane tasks and basically free up people to do the more creative things that machines can't do. But so that's all great. I mean, if we can reduce admin time and mundane tasks, I think everyone's all for it. But what are the downfalls that we need to consider? And I'm not talking Terminator, Skynet stuff, but like that's the immediate cliche thing. But in a business sense, what might be the downfalls, the things that we need to think about, that when companies are jumping on AI and not really understanding what it is.
I think you see a lot of things here that are really, really fascinating. And it's not just with AI, it's anytime you have new technology, look at this trend in Japan of building automated looms that will essentially knock out like, what H&M produces in Bangladesh, but you can produce that locally. And the question isn't like, is it taking away jobs, but how do you re-educate, and are we willing as a society to reinvest in people who will be displaced into a different trend, or do we just leave them there because it's cheap? And this is a far bigger question, and also it goes back to the previous thing: is what is an investor and what kind of return do you want? Is it a monetary return, or do you want a societal return? And there's lots of people who are more than willing to invest in something that will make my life better. So
That was terrible.
Oh,
It's terrible. Yeah, it looked like it really sucked. I'm so sorry you had such a shitty time.
Oui, c'est bon.
okay.
Yeah, I'm getting better.
Sorry,
I think we've got someone.
yeah.
Someone's not on mute.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Pardon that, I kind of lost my trend there, but yes, like in general, like looking at all of these things, and I think look at chat GPT, wonderful tool, wonderful, great stuff, but then everything starts to sound the same. So you have to start customizing it, and you'll always need someone and having higher level thinking jobs and better thinking jobs, who wants to write a bunch of content, but you still have to have tone of voice. Unless you teach that AI to do that, it's going to sound like every other company, and does it really matter at that moment? But the automation piece is good, repeatable things, taking care of that stuff. I think that's the key thing. The downfall of it is learning, and look what happened with Chat GPT. You can't log in now, the free accounts are going away, it's being monetized, so one thing will kill the other, and then sooner or later it'll balance out. That's how I kind of look at it.
I also see the bigger problem is the bias, right? The bias that could exist on these models, on these tools, because it's based around the people that use them or feed data into them. For example, if you were to really build an ATS that is on an AI, analyzing profiles for candidates for specific jobs, and you only have a certain type of people in the company, or let's say in the team that are building that algorithm and then training that data, and they have that inherent bias, basically the people that are building it or the people that are now using it, or a specific part of community, then you would see that bias in that model as well. And that's also quite challenging to let's say remove from the AI, artificial intelligence, the human element from it all.
I would add to this as well, right? Well, it's amazing that it's democratizing access to AI, right? But of course, there are all ethical conversations as well. But to me, at this moment, I think one of the biggest questions is actually the trustworthiness of the information. Maybe this is because I don't know exactly how the information is getting there, right? And like, to be honest, I tried ChatGPT. I wasn't super impressed. Some parts are amazing. Some parts are like, I wouldn't trust it to generate insights for me, right? But generally, I think that this year, in context of product management, would be also a year of explorations of these tools by the product community to understand like the realities of this technology, right? The limitations, the applicability, right? And also which part of this we can implement in our work. And I think it is quite clear at this moment that in order to keep up with the competition, right, and with the market demands, you have to implement some part of this, right, to create this great solutions, differentiated solutions. But I think that at the moment, at least, the key here is to really understand how you can leverage this to improve your product, right, and not just replace it, but rather how to find a great symbiosis, if you want, between AI and just regular human judgment, right? The same for any creative jobs. I actually think that AI will create a lot of jobs. It will take away some jobs, but it will also create a lot of jobs. I think there are a lot of like operations and support can be needed for this, right? So I think that the key here is, because it's not going away. Of course, we like cannot really predict. I mean, I remember like 20 years ago, we really thought that next year will be a year of semantic web. Now we turn into kittens, right? So we cannot really predict, but it's clear that we need to find our way to coexist, right?
think the genie's out of the bottle with AI, isn't it? So definitely want to consider and think about as we go through the year. What else is on the things to look out for? Low code, no code. I've heard quite a lot about this. I've spoken to a few people that I know. They're definitely excited about being able to prototype a hell of a lot quicker rather than waiting for engineering to have the availability to build something for you. So yeah, whoever wants to pick up on this from a product point of view.
So I'll jump in. Like, I think, you know, like all of these things, they're not like revolutions, they're kind of evolutions to speed up things, you know. And you know, like prototyping and proof of concept is key. You know, you look at 60 Beans, this is like the proof of concept took a very short period of time to actually having, you know, generating some revenue and seeing, hey, this is an idea that could make sense versus waiting a whole year. And utilizing some of these solutions, I think we've like sped up, but it's also created some issues, you know, along with that. And like anything, you always have to assess the positives and the negatives, you know. It always has to be a balance of two things, and knowing what to use at the right moment is key. But a lot of these tools and so on, the companies behind them are also kind of chaotic. So the software may be really great, but will the company sustain that growth? Can they really achieve something great? Or are they trying to say like it can do everything? And nothing can do everything well. So you kind of have to pick what you want to automate, what you don't want to, and showing proof of concept very quickly, showing ideas. And I think getting closer to that product market fit is what we're looking at when we use these kinds of solutions. Because in the past, it would take, you know, from my perspective, on average, like 12 to 18 months, you know, to see whether you have that and you can move forward. And this could hopefully shorten that time without having to hire a bunch of really expensive, you know, freelancers or other people. And freelancers can be expensive on the cheap side or on the expensive side. You get what you pay for. So you either pay for the debt now or later. But this is a great way of kind of reducing and throwing it away and not feeling bad about it.
And surely this is sort of going back to the funding part. If you can build a proof of concept fairly quickly, fairly cheaply, and evidence that people want it, surely that will increase investor confidence and give you the money to go and really go and build it properly.
Yeah, but it also touches upon another very key thing, is that investment is there, but I think if you really want to make an impact and get what you deserve as as a founder, you probably also need to bootstrap a little bit. You know, you can't just expect you're going to get all of this funding and it's going to be great, because at the end, yeah, it's €100 billion company and you only get, let's say, 1 million from that because you've diluted. You have to be smart about these things too.
Yeah, agreed on funding part as well. I mean, I feel like in the startup world, everyone thinks that, you know, the only successful startup can be the ones that are funded, VC funded, or, you know, raise capital. But really, the most successful businesses are the ones that are usually bootstrapped, and they don't have, you know, massive amount of debt, and they don't liquidate a lot of equity to external investors. And that's how they keep their profits and be a sustainable business, and are not basically pressurized by the VCs to run through, you know, growth cycles every year, because they need to renegotiate and raise funds again, and things like that. But yes, for even for speeding up and low cost no code tools, I mean, I feel like you can create at least a prototype in almost anything, on paper as well. Just show some screens. You know, Balsamic can give you a free account to create mock-ups, which you can basically move forward with. They're very, very easy to use, but it just depends on what your need is as a person or as a founder as well. Some people are using these low code no code tools to automate their life, which is quite good. And some people do use them as proof of concept to raise funds as well. So it just depends which direction you want to go to.
Yeah. Alex, have you used any of these tools?
I tried Zoho a couple of months back, but then I didn't after that.
I actually wanted to add on this because I tried a couple of them, and I'm not really good with names, but I remember Bubble something, and they're complex. They're very complex, to be honest. And I think that we're in the era where it's we're not like 20 years ago where you would just reinstall your Windows, you create your own self-hosted blog, and everything was you just like this. Right now, it's simplification of the user experience, and to be honest, I'm not ready to take this sort of commitments, to just learn this. There's a learning curve, and I hope that this will be a start where there will be more options and there will be competition as well. And in this context, it's also amazing to see how Figma has really taken off. Right? I've been literally at a demo for a sales, for a revenue ops tool, something like this, where they demoed as a prototype in Figma. And it was amazing. It did the job, right? So, and I think that a lot of people, especially those who have no coding background, those who are maybe a little bit averse to this, right? That I think that we can count Figma in, and it will be growing much faster as well.
Well, let's hope Adobe don't ruin it. So this is a topic that keeps coming up over and over. We've all been working remotely, but what does this really mean going forward now the world seems to be back to a new version of normal? So Alex, you've worked with remote teams, what are your thoughts? What are the challenges, particularly within product?
I think the biggest thing with this is how do you create a culture? I think a lot of times people start off with a fully on bit, in the office culture, and then they get hit with this. And then how do you adapt? Your tech, your video, all of this stuff, and you have companies like, I believe, InVision started this way. They were fully remote from the very beginning. They had the infrastructure, they could work out well, and they maintained a certain culture. But it's hard to do it the other way around. And the key thing is how do you build a culture and a company that has this glue outside of just the tech that produces a product? And and what does that mean, and how much are you willing to give up seeing someone and being able to touch them and thinking that you have control when you have no control, essentially,
But from a product specific point of view, because like I speak to engineers all the time and they're all for remote, and it's like, I've got my requirements, just let me do my code and I'll check it in and that's fine. But product and discovery and things like that, understanding what users want or maybe need, there's a lot of things that are said without being said. And do you think relying on Zoom and things like that really hinders your ability to capture that, or is it not really an issue?
Yeah, I think it is, like, actually finding out what users really need and want by not seeing them and seeing the cues is, I think, a big detriment. Like, I've seen videos and they're great, but then when you're in the room with the person, you get a whole different thing, and how do you somehow simulate that where you're kind of in a virtual space? There's the metaverse and all this stuff, but I think it's difficult, particularly with designers and product, because it's so haptic. And how can you make that the same or maybe different, or maybe it evolves? I don't know.
I also think this is also based on product itself. What kind of product you have. Specifically, if you're in any kind of digital product, of course, like, it's not 100% great to be in the same room as the users. But I mean, having worked remotely for the past couple of years, so I was like, maybe last 3 years I've been fully remote anyways. We have had a lot of customer calls that we do over Slack and over Zoom, and they've been good. I mean, but I actually do agree with Roman. Like, you have to build that culture, right? It's hard to build that culture of trust that everyone is remote and everyone's okay with that, and we basically work together collaboratively regardless. And in order to do that, you require a lot of tools. Of course, you require very, very intelligent tools where people can collaborate with each other, even if they're not in the same room together. But yeah, I mean, for me, remote works, but it does have some challenges which can be overcome based on if you build that culture. Yes, Alex, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I actually personally have my doubts that remote will be the predominant way, not only because I love a good office, not only because I love commute, because it's a good time for me, a few minutes a day that I have to myself, right? So I cherish it. But also this work from home mode, right, during the pandemic, and like also working with fully remote teams has shown to me basically the lower level of innovation and creativity, right? And what you've been talking about, talking to customers, actually that part worked well, more or less. But I think that you're spot on here, that I think that this fully remote product mode of work, right, that it falls short on this critical aspect of genuine human relationships, this trust and openness and reliability, and that the product work, it basically is built on the premise of the free flow of ideas, of feedback, of collective striving, of collaboration, brainstorming, etc. And it's really hard to do remotely. And I also have seen a lot of this pattern that the problems in remote environment or distributed teams is often concealed with processes, right? And that's why also, for example, my calendar was crazy for the past year. And like, I feel that there are kind of can be a lot of movement, but not so much progress, right? And generally, I think that like a lot of us are ready to embrace the privileges that remote environment gives, right? Like drop the offices, skip the commute, etc. But not everyone is really ready to take on the responsibility of this model that it requires. Like, for example, to provide ways for the teams to meet often, right, and for prolonged amount of times, or for example, to invest actively to help and coach the teams to be successful, because remote environment requires certain maturity, right, from people. So I have my doubts. I think that we'll see more of this, and it's like a lot of companies will play with this, but I think also that a lot of companies will get back to at least the hybrid mode. I love hybrid model, right? It allows like less restricted ways of working and openness to employees' needs, and we definitely deserve that.
Yeah, I feel like with remote work, it's almost like you see the pendulum swing. It's like, oh, we're all in the office. Like,
Exactly.
oh, we're all fully remote. And it's like, well, people kind of want that balance. And say they need the support of like, this is how we work as an organization. These are the expectations the business has of you. And if we're all on the same page, then it'll work. And if we're not, then, you know, we'll have a conversation about it. So,
yeah.
Cool. What's the next slide, Charles?
But one last point on that is that remote only doesn't necessarily mean that you never meet. It can also mean that every so often you may meet once a quarter and do this stuff. So this is like a whole different kind of level. So I think we have to change what remote working really means. It's not like you never see anyone and it's just like an AI picture, you know, but it will be something a little different. I think this is a key.
But are the companies ready to invest in it? I was working with a team which was in Kathmandu. Yeah, and of course there are like some people that will come in there and working with the several teams with all the engineers, but the company couldn't afford for more people to come there or for people to come here, let's say. So this really hindered the productivity and discovery and delivery as well.
Yeah. Look at Envision. So they started, I believe, fully remote, and they've done a wonderful job, at least what I've seen and read about, to do this. But it's a certain mindset. It's maybe not for everyone, even though everyone wants to have that. They start to recognize that it's kind of like being in solitary confinement, and that's what we kind of dealt with such a long period of time.
So I think we've kind of touched on this throughout, but I think we're kind of maybe seeing a rationalization of the market, and it's not all about growth, and let's think about, good old economics of profitability and paying for things and what have you. So Nikhil, what do you think? Anything to say on this point?
Yeah, I mean, nothing that I haven't said before. I think it's the focus is going to be much more on profitability and sustainability for the companies to build sustainable businesses, to be able to flourish and have a good runway, and not jeopardizing their culture or their product for the future, just to pick up the numbers on their product. So like growth at all costs will definitely go, because this is going to yield stronger players in the market now. That's why we see like a lot of acquisitions and buyouts, as well as companies that are now closing their doors and laying off a lot of people, because they hired for growth at all costs, and they all assumed that this would end purely how it usually ends, is by raising another round and having growth at all costs just running in the background always.
Do we think then this shift is going to be a good thing for product then? Sounds like yes to me.
I think product, it depends on where you work, and I would have this question like, does a sustainable business need to be profitable? Can it be a nonprofit too? Can it have a different idea? Does this also make sense, as we go into like a different world of remote and hybrid and so on, where maybe you work, maybe not for so much money, but you're adding profitability through a better environment, a cleaner environment. But either way, I think product is always like, if it's rightly structured with all the core teams, it will always flourish. But it's about communication and how do you approach things and how do you challenge and how do you create ideas. And then profitability and growth kind of, I look at that as secondary. If you do a great job, they come. It's not that you can force growth and profitability. Maybe for the short run, but then, you sacrifice future growth.
I also think that founders and leaders realizing that they have no way around product-driven growth, right, and transformation, and that the product mentality will sort of permeate more or less all other business functions as well, right? Especially in times where there is not just enough money to just throw into marketing and sales. And like this, building a sustainable business is not a new concept, right? It's everything that product managers and growth managers were talking about for such a long time. This is basically the goal of the PMF, right? To be able to reach a proven PMF with good retention, with good rate, and good unit economics, right? But I think that one of the problems is that a lot of founders, they're actually not product people, right? They're coming from a lot of backgrounds and a lot of different industries. They have a very different way of looking, right? Even at business making. Let's say one of the, I think, very vivid examples of this is when you're working on product market fit, like something that I'm doing as an advisor right now with companies, right? An XLab, like it sounds very counterintuitive for them to be able to define the niche narrowly, right? And to build a product for them, which is basically your principle number one, right? So build a product and satisfy one type of customers, because they're used to thinking about like, let's cast a wider net sort of thinking, right? And like I've met so many of these discrepancies about how we think And I think that it comes from from their experience and from a good place, right? But it just they'll have to change. They'll have to change and adopt new styles. Yeah, and I can also like an interesting topic here that I wanted to follow on is this possible revival of the product marketing, right? And as I said, like I think that more of the PMs will embrace the let's say this market side of the product market fit and understand that they're not too isolated from each other, right? And will pay and increase the attention to the demand and dynamics and GDM, but also possibly this PMM role, product marketing manager role, will revive. I think that it's lately this function has been somewhat receding, right? As expectations for them were not really clear. It wasn't clear where they sit in the organization, but I expect, and I think that it will be really, really beneficial for PMs and PMMs to really work closer with each other. Maybe PMMs being the part of the cross-functional squads, right? Maybe being a part of the product organization and report to product leaders. So, and it will be much more effective, right? Because product managers cannot hold their focus on everything, but things like GTM, right? Helping the product teams to understand their market segmentation, market positioning, competitive differentiation, competitive intel. This is all super, super important to understand and where to place your bets, right? What are your best opportunities to work smarter, right? So differentiating your product is like amplifier to your execution, to your strategy, etc. Yeah, so it's my little prediction. I don't know if it will come true, right? But I also see the increased amount of jobs for product marketing managers.
Good points. So yeah, I feel like we're getting just towards the end of the slide deck, Charlie. Feels like
We've got these slides here about the role of product management, but we've pretty much gone over those in the stuff that we've said previously. But we've also got just what do we hope to see? I know you touched on it there, Alex. But does anyone else have anything?
I think, part of this is that, at least what I've seen for a long period of time, is we have certain terms that we use, like personas and all of these things. And I think for product to really be effective is, instead of using our terms, we need to come up with common terms. Like we talk about segmentation. Well, segmentation and personas, they're just a different step and a different way of looking at things. And to really become effective as product people, it's learning how the organization speaks, defining common things, and maybe not calling something a persona, but a profile for a marketing team as they're looking at targeting stuff and getting to the same goal, but like kind of compromising and working together to make it fit, versus saying, hey, it has to be Scrum or not, or it has to be this, or it has to be this. And working together with people is, I think, the key aspect that I would like to see. And business-wide agility, a lot of times people say, hey, I can't do Scrum, Scrum doesn't work for this, or Kanban doesn't work for this. And it's like, maybe you don't know what Kanban really is. It's just a visualization. Visualize your flow, show what you're doing, make it transparent. Just don't say it. But it's really about educating and seeing this kind of like, I've always wanted this to happen, having an agile practice that is parallel to everything, and it's not tied to operations, it's not tied to product, but it reports up directly to the CEO, as any other discipline. And this, I would hope to see happen, but we'll see, it's always about operational efficiency, profitability, and so on. But a way to get there is to make your teams efficient in how they work.
Anyone else want to comment on what they'd like to see this year or coming years?
Yeah, sure. Just following up on this thread about agile, and I'll be short, right? But I really think that we don't see too much of agile, right? It's a buzzword, but what it now represents is lots of fancy names, lots of processes, lots of rituals, not necessarily what stands behind them. Like that's my personal experience, right? I'm not saying that everyone is doing this, but I've also been a part of the agile transformation, and like there was everything about transformation and not too much about agile, right? To me, agile is about how you solve problems, how you come up with the solutions, right? And I can understand why this happens because like it's less predictable, it's less controllable, right? And not everyone is ready for this sort of maybe leap of faith sometimes. Again, it's my personal experience where we have too many processes. I'm almost becoming an anti-process person just because I see that how often they conceal the problem or maybe deprive us of thinking really, right? It's like there's a process toolkit, let's just put it there, right? And say that we're done. So and that's sort of my wish, that we're becoming more thoughtful and deliberate about what stands behind. Do we want to be named agile? Do we want to have Scrum? Do we want to have, I don't know, stand-ups? Or do we want the results, right, of this? So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
And we're getting to the end here, which is where Roman comes in with his exclusive offer.
Yes. So I wanted to offer each one of you the opportunity. So we focus on specialty coffee, and we're a marketplace to give you access. So every European, and we're starting out in the German market, to really offer high quality, fresh coffee. And this is a great way of also influencing what, you know, the producers or the farmers create. You know, if they can produce a product that makes them sustainable and offers transparency to the end user, it makes the world a better place. It increases their life, how much they can make, but it also gives you better access to coffee. So we have, I think, over 30 or 40 different specialty coffee roasters, and all of it is fresh, shipped from them. And this offer, if you put in this code, it's a long code. Sorry for that. So take a screenshot.
Just for anyone who wants to take Roman up on that, I've posted it in the chat there so you can copy and paste it.
Yes, and the website is www.60beans.com. Click on the green shop button, and then you can see all of the great, wonderful German coffee roasters. And we're also going to start featuring international coffee roasters and so on. And everything is fresh. It's shipped directly from the roaster.
All of this in one meetup, all the product chat you need, and cheap coffee. Excellent. Great coffee, discounted even, not cheap coffee.
Might migrate over to Germany soon to take you up on that offer.
Yes. We're also planning on going throughout Europe. So the goal is to also feature, one of the big markets is the UK. So we're slowly moving. First, we have to make sure that the model, everything works well here, and then start expanding throughout Europe.
Cool.
Great stuff. So we're kind of rounding things up. But before we do, if there was anyone in the any attendees who have anything that would like to add, anyone like to ask any questions, now your time to do so. I think we've covered quite a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot to take in there. Like it says on this slide here, that the slides will be available. We'll send them out via email. We'll put them in the Slack channel. And we make little digestible sound bites as well that we can put on SoundCloud.
Yes, we do. It's I really like the sound bites podcast vibe that we've kind of landed on. Cool. Is that all the slides, Charlie?
There's just a little bit on what our next event is going to be.
Yes, of course. So yeah, next month on the 22nd, we're going to be talking about product ops. What is it? I think it's a new term. I think the immediate thing people just think is the DevOps of the product world, but what does it really mean? Anna Maria is in the guests, I think, today, so feel free to say hello, not putting me on the spot or anything, but she's going to join us with Antonia to really go through what it is and how it's going to be useful and how you can implement it. So that'll be really good.
Cool. And then the final slide just makes it easier for people to join byProduct if you're not a member already. And then we post all the content on our LinkedIn as well.
Yes.
So go give that a follow or a like or
Yeah.
whatever you call it on LinkedIn.
Yeah, definitely follow us on LinkedIn. We're definitely pushing more of the content and news that we have in the chat through there. As we said at the beginning of the call, that we are on Slack, but we're thinking about migrating and always open to hearing what people's thoughts at the moment. We're thinking a WhatsApp community seems like a nice way of doing things, but again, no, nothing's finally decided without getting some user feedback.